Welcome to The Explainer. We're diving straight in today because we are looking at a discovery that literally shatters everything we thought we knew about the universe. I mean, for centuries, we thought we had biology figured out, right? We were so certain about the exact ingredients required to spark life. But deep within the crushing, freezing atmosphere of a super-Earth called Euryale, 42 light-years away, we found something impossible, an entire humanoid civilization built completely out of chlorine. Today, we are decoding Dr. Aris Thorne's breathtaking biological assessment of a species known as Homo Chloridia.
Now, to really wrap our heads around how mind-bending this is, we kind of have to look at our own blind spots. For the longest time, humanity suffered from what scientists call carbon chauvinism. It's basically this rigid dogma that life fundamentally requires carbon to build complex molecules. And honestly, it made total sense based on Earth's chemistry. Carbon has 4 valence electrons. It's great at building stable, infinitely varied chains. But chlorine? It's a halogen. On Earth, it acts as a highly reactive, toxic gas that usually forms just a single bond. It caps and terminates chains, it doesn't build them. The idea of chlorine-based life was just considered completely preposterous.
But, as you'll see, the universe is infinitely more inventive than we gave it credit for. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to break down that carbon chauvinism, check out Euryale's insane chemistry, map out their macroanatomy, uncover their totally backwards metabolism and quantum minds, and finally, decode their triple helix genetics.
Okay, part 1. Beyond carbon chauvinism, the paradigm shift. Let's set the stage by looking at the extreme planetary environment that forced this parallel evolution.
Euryale is, well, it's not a welcoming world by our standards. It's an absolute crucible. The surface sits beneath a staggering 150 atmospheres of crushing pressure. Imagine having the weight of a car parked on literally every square inch of your body. Plus, it's locked in this permanent cryogenic twilight at negative 63 degrees Celsius, or 210 Kelvin. These extremes are horribly hostile to carbon-based life, but they are exactly what necessitates entirely new rules for chemistry to take over.
Moving right into part 2, the chemistry of Euryale, redrawing the bonds. Let's see how these brutal conditions actually force atomic structures to rewrite the rules of life.
So, what's the chemical workaround here? Normally, chlorine's outer electron shells are totally empty. But when you squeeze them under 150 atmospheres of pressure, those electron clouds get violently compressed into a state called hypervalency. Suddenly, chlorine acts like a multi-tool, bonding with up to 6 other atoms. Now, pure chlorine chains are too unstable, so evolution solved this by alternating the chlorine with oxygen or nitrogen. This builds an incredibly sturdy chloroxane lattice. It is a brilliant structural foundation born directly out of immense pressure.
And because of this bizarre chemistry, their vital fluid is totally alien to us. For you and me, a tall glass of liquid water is refreshing. For Homo Chloridia, water is literally a lethal, reactive explosive. No way. Instead, their water is a frigid, liquid mixture of sulfur dioxide and hydrogen chloride. At Euryale's crazy low temperatures and high pressures, liquid sulfur dioxide acts as a brilliant, pale yellow polar solvent that perfectly dissolves ionic compounds and flows right through their veins.
Which brings us to part 3, anatomy of Homo Chloridia, designing a bipedal giant. Let's zoom out macroscopically for a second. How do you physically build a bipedal giant out of halogens?
The physical differences between us and them are just staggering. Standing roughly 2.2 meters tall, their skin isn't soft like ours at all. It's built from tough fluorochloroelastomers. Think of a translucent, pale greenish-yellow silicone, which is absolutely necessary to stop their internal liquid sulfur dioxide from just leaking out. And inside, their skeleton has to withstand 1.4 times Earth's gravity. So forget calcium phosphate. Their bones are dense matrices of barium chloral silicates. They're literally walking on hyper-reinforced, highly refractive crystals. And since keratin hair is a carbon luxury, they instead have microscopic crystalline cilia made of barium chloride covering their bodies, which helps them feel atmospheric pressure waves.
Now, all this structural density translates to terrifying physical power. Our muscles rely on fluid, right? But that would instantly crush into paste on Euryale. Their muscles are these semi-crystalline bands that operate like microscopic snap-in coils. Dr. Thorne pointed out that their movements aren't smooth. It's more like a series of infinitely rapid micro-vibrational snaps. An unarmed Chlorian human could, theoretically, shatter a terrestrial concrete pillar with a single reflex-driven strike of their fist. Just boom.
Okay, part 4, breathing the fires of ice, a backwards metabolism. Let's look under the hood at the engine. How do they generate energy when they don't have carbon to burn? Well, they do it by breathing completely backward compared to us. Step 1. They inhale highly toxic, elemental chlorine gas right from their thick atmosphere into spiral-chambered gas exchange organs. Step 2. Their cells have something equivalent to mitochondria called halochondria, which react those inhaled gases with the hydrogen-rich mineral polymers they eat as food. And step 3. This exothermic reaction forces them to exhale a cloud of highly acidic hydrogen chloride gas. On Earth, that breath would instantly melt flesh and glass, but on Euryale, it just naturally diffuses into the freezing wind.
So the big so what here is how this backwards metabolism powers their actual cells. We use ATP. They use CTP, or chlorophyll triphosphazine. When their cells cleave the terminal phosphorus-chlorine bond in CTP, it releases a massive, explosive burst of biochemical energy and heat. Halogen bonds are just intrinsically so energetic, so their baseline metabolism runs chemically hot. And that is an absolutely perfect evolutionary design to counteract the freezing temperatures of their planet.
Moving up to the cranial dome for Part 5, the quantum crystal mind, thought in the extreme. We really have to ask, how does consciousness even work when the planet is too cold and pressurized for normal brain fluids?
Because regular liquids would freeze totally solid, their brain just throws chemical neurotransmitters right out the window. Instead, it looks like a 3D integrated circuit encased in a transparent dome. It completely relies on proton tunneling and electron delocalization across those hypervalent chlorine ridges we talked about. They literally process thought at a quantum level. Because electrons move vastly faster than diffusing chemical ions, the reaction times are incredibly fast. To them, a sprinting human would look like they were moving in agonizing slow motion.
And this solid-state processing extends perfectly to their senses. Fluid-filled eyes would just collapse under that pressure, so their eyes are solid, faceted domes of clear barium chloride crystal. Euryale is pitch black visibly, but they don't even see visible light anyway. Their eyes act as biological phased-array metamaterials that perceive purely in the far infrared and microwave spectrums. So to them, their world isn't dark at all. It's ablaze with thermal colors, the heat of the deep crust, and microwave auroras. We would be invisible to them visually, but we would shine like blindingly hot stars in their thermal vision.
Now, Part 6, the chlorine triple helix, the indestructible blueprint. We are diving down to the deepest cellular level to uncover the most breathtaking discovery of this whole explainer, their genetic code.
Here on Earth, our DNA is a pretty fragile double helix with a carbon-sugar backbone, gently unzipped by enzymes. On Euryale, that extreme acidic environment and pressure would shred our DNA in seconds. Instead, they use CNA, chlorosyl nucleic acid. But there's a big problem. Hypervalent chlorine atoms are bulky and they're highly negatively charged. A double helix would literally tear itself apart from the electrostatic repulsion. Evolution's workaround? A virtually indestructible triple helix, and it's anchored down the middle by a solid, positively charged magnesium ion core. This brilliant core totally neutralizes the immense repulsive forces of the halogens, and to replicate, they literally have to use massive localized heat to melt microscopic sections of the helix just to let new nucleobases crystallize into place.
And because their bodies are basically complex grown crystals, they don't grow organically in a womb like we do. A fertilized ovum, which is this rigid, multifaceted crystal, is deposited right into a hyperacidic, boiling thermal vent on the ocean floor. Over the course of 3 Earth years, that crystal autonomously absorbs immense thermal energy and ambient halogens. Layers of fluoropolymers weave themselves over a silicate skeleton until eventually a fully formed miniature adult just breaks free from the rock. Their reproduction seamlessly bridges the gap between mammalian birth and geological formation. It's wild.
We'll wrap up our analysis with this incredibly profound observation from Dr. Thorne. Homo Chlorida proves that life is just infinitely more aggressive, inventive, and relentless than our narrow terrestrial chemistry could have ever conceived. They are the halogen children of the universe. They are a chemical mirror proving that the beautiful drive for matter to organize, awaken, and look back at the cosmos doesn't just belong to carbon, it's a universal constant.
And that brings us to our ultimate takeaway for today. Carbon chauvinism is well and truly dead. So I want to leave you with this final provocative question. If an entire civilization made of chlorine, sulfur, and glass can carve cities out of the crust in the freezing, high-pressure dark of Euryale, what other supposedly impossible forms of life are out there just waiting for us to find them? Thanks for tuning in to this explainer, and keep questioning everything.
Please like and subscribe.